Atmananda speaks only English. So if it's fine with everyone, today's session will be in English. Otherwise, I usually do it in Swedish if there's just Swedish people. I know that there's some, and I record it on Instagram Live, and I know that there are some people very happy right now that I'm going to have this session in English. And how are you? Good? And I haven't met you two before, so I just want to ask, you have practiced some kind of meditation? Yeah. Yes? What kind?
I've been doing Vipassana mostly.
Yes.
For about 3 years.
Yes, good.
Yes, about Vipassana mostly.
Vipassana.
But I kind of mix this for 3-4 years.
Yes.
Yes. And you have some kind of curiosity towards the non-dual traditions in Vedanta.
I've read much of it, Maharshi for instance.
Yes.
I'm very curious.
Okay, good. Yeah, then you're in the right place. Good. And we can just start very simply and very practical by just sitting in a comfortable position. Closing your eyes. And just become aware what is experienced. Don't have to go into any techniques. You just watch. Like a deep listening. Just notice your body's emotional state, or the sensations of the body. Just notice that there is thinking. Completely aware. And whatever comes into your field of consciousness, you just notice and watch. There's nothing to control, there's nothing to fix. There's nothing to improve. Just stay. There can be a sensation of slowing down if you stay aware. Just notice. thoughts, you just stay and watch everything. This watchfulness doesn't need any words. It is just watching. And even if you get drawn into your thoughts and it feels like you come back, every time you realize that you were drawn, that you went with the thoughts and got out of it, you're aware again. Then there is a little space between the watchfulness and the thinking. I want you to notice that everything can be observed. And that there is a deep aspect in you that does not change. If you get drawn into your thoughts, notice them. Come back. And if the mind becomes quiet, just stay. Give up all efforts of deepening the silence or whatever you think that you have to do. Just stay. notice the pull of your thoughts. And if there is emotion, a strong emotional content, you will also notice the tendency of the mind to want to fix. You just notice everything. You can slowly open your eyes. You can move your hands a little bit, stretch out your legs if you need to. I usually guide people in this meditation because if you get it, then you don't have to do too much of concentration practice. If you start to notice the silence and you notice the unchanging nature of it, and you start to watch from there, this is a great step in meditation. And this shows the changing nature of everything. So with this kind of practice, it puts your focus not on a mantra or an object or or something to concentrate on, but on yourself. And in the beginning, I understand that this can be confusing. That is a part of it, because our idea of what we are is usually takes so much space. It's so profound for us. The feeling of I in thoughts, in emotions, in qualities, in all this. But as we investigate, it will be clearer and clearer that the I that is actual is this unchanging stillness. And that's what we explore. But it won't be there because you listen to me and I tell you that is there. You have to notice it. And in the beginning, it can feel like something alien, like there is a new aspect that is supposed to be imposed, but that is not what meditation is. This silence is always there. If you would say, I don't care about meditation, the silence is still there. The unchanging background of everything is still there. So if you consider yourself to be on a spiritual path or not on a spiritual path, it makes no difference. And we could call this stillness with other names. Sometimes it's also called the now, because it is the only thing that is here. And the mind and the egoic mind has all these ideas of the future and the past and all these ideas in time. What I could have been, and all these kind of aspects that the mind can play with. But none of them are real from the perspective of the stillness or the now. Because in the now, that is all that exists. Everything else is just this coming and going. And since we have so much focus in this realm of thinking and identification, we live primarily, most people live primarily in this, in the idea of time and what they are in time, where they're going, what has happened to them, all this. But if we look, we start to notice that there is only this. There is only this moment. It's not this complex world that the egoic mind has is secondary, because it's just an idea. And what is what is. So sometimes it feels like I feel ridiculous when I talk about the meditation and what it is, because all I want to say is, but it's only what is. And it sounds so small. For the egoic mind, it's like the tiniest thing. It's this now, but what is that in the big scheme of things? When the egoic mind can think of the world and everything that is happening, or what is going to happen, and all the history of humankind, then the now feels like nothing. But in reality, it is everything. So we have a very skewed vision of our world. We say so much, we talk so much about the state of the world, but what is it really? What is the state of you? It is this. The simple now. The field where everything is happening. Even your ideas of grand things are happening in this now. So to keep so little focus on the now, I think is a great disservice to yourself. Because the more you look at it, then you will also notice that everything springs out of the now. You think that your happiness is in time, that if you find a certain goal and achieve it, then you achieve happiness. This is, the egoic mind loves these kind of ideas. And that you should fill, if I just fill all my cups, my relationship cup, and my career cup, and my knowledge cup, if they are filled enough, yes, then I made it. But if you look at the now, you will notice that all the ideas of a future goal that is satisfied, and what gives us this feeling also, this false sense of chasing a goal and achieving it, and that brings happiness, is because we give up the chase when we have the idea that we have achieved it. But you are there from the beginning. This happiness that comes from you chasing something and achieving it, that is already here. That is not something that is in time. And it just gives the sense of that, because you create this idea, you achieve it, and then you give up your search, and then you have a brief moment of happiness until you start your search again. And I don't want you to just believe me from a philosophical standpoint in this. I want you to examine. I want you to look. If it seems like what Marcus is talking about, it seems interesting, I want to look at this, then look. Sit, look, check what is going on. Check the nature, the ever-changing nature of the body, of emotions, of thoughts. See if it is possible to watch. See what happens when you don't identify with thoughts time and time again. If you stay as the stillness, what happens? What is it that you see? Is it possible? Because it's so common that people like the idea, but they like it as an idea, so they try to figure it out. You listen to me, and then you go home and you figure it out. That is the most common way people approach it. And maybe it's unavoidable for a little bit, but if you get frustrated by trying to figure it out, that is very good, because that means that you're closer to giving up and start to watch instead. Because it's so easy for the mind says, yes, maybe Marcus couldn't figure it out, but I can. He's just not using his mind right.
You said something about the gap or the space between thinking and watchfulness. I guess you have talked about that before, but it got stuck in my head. Could you say something more about that?
Yes.
Space.
Yes. The egoic mind and the beingness or the stillness, they're very much intertwined in most people. They're like this. People, things come from the stillness, energy come from it, but it's always given to the egoic mind as soon as it asks for it. It wants to interact, and you identify with it, and then and what happens in when you start to watch is that these two separate, and that is when you experience a gap, and this gap is is happening in all people, even though you're not practicing meditation, because people would just call when there is some space, that is a good day, people say. Because if someone says something nasty to you or not so nice, you don't take it personally, you just have a good day, so it just very easily comes off. So that means that there's just not so much identification. And usually people just go between this complete identification with the egoic mind, and then it separates a little bit and then it goes back. But what happens if you practice is that this starts to get more spacious. So that's why people often find their practice very liberating, and it feels like, whew, I got some space. I have this watchfulness. And this is also just a phase that is going to happen. Because the egoic mind often sneaks into this and likes this space, likes that there is a gap between me and the other, and that you don't feel so affected. So people get very smitten by this. They like this feeling a lot. But the problem with that is that can be strong detachment. So at some point you also have to invite again. You come into this space, you're very good at watching. You're watching every time you stand at the bus station, when you're in the supermarket queue, wherever you are, you just watchfulness. You go to bed as watchfulness. And it's so enjoyable, this space, but at some point it has to be integrated again. You have to...
At what point and why?
Because it's still the egoic mind.
It's part of you. It's still part of you, right?
Yes, everything is still part of you, but the egoic mind starts to has a tendency to hold everything at a distance. So when you're in that state, you can also feel a bit shut off with certain things. You're not so integrated with things. You don't allow everything, because the egoic mind is creating a little bit of a boundary in this space. So but this seems to be a process that is unavoidable. Everyone who practices meditation go through this separation and then back into integration. So that is...
And then what happens? It goes back into the space, because it's some kind of ongoing movement.
Yes, there will be... when integration starts to happen, then everything... you will start to invite everything into the space. Mm-hmm. So if something happens to you, your reaction to it will be, I want to sit with this, and I will... If there is a crisis or something, you will go directly to this space, and you will just invite, this fear, the fear of dying is coming again, and the fear of this, whatever it is.
So you have more control, let's say, over how much it is integrated and how much this egoic mind identifies. You can more easily separate it again when it identifies too much. So when you integrate, and then it will not be like before, that the egoic mind is totally identified with everything that's happening.
No.
Because you've trained it.
Yes.
So
then there will be much clearer separation of this, and you will still feel like you're watching things, but you're not keeping things at a distance. That is the difference.
And so you will not go back to how it was before.
No. And that is a very interesting part of it, at least for me. The first year when I practiced, I just felt the effect when I practiced, and when I stopped practicing, it felt like I fell back into my old patterns. And as soon as I integrated things like trust to the universe, like I gave myself to something bigger, then it started to change. Then it started to change at the root. Then even though I practiced, or if I didn't practice, it didn't matter. It was always changed. And certain fears just left forever. And so that's why I'm so keen on showing you those things. That's why I'm just talking about this spaciousness, about the stillness, and resting as it. Because if you start to put your emphasis there instead of in the egoic mind, that is the biggest change that I have seen.
So after how many years?
If you have good guidance, it won't take long. The problem for me was that I didn't have much guidance in the beginning, so I had to try everything for myself, and it felt very dry, and I didn't understand why, and I went around to different teachers, and then I got certain. So I would have loved that someone talked about meditation in this way that I am talking to you now. When I started, that would have been very helpful. And I also read Ramana Maharshi, but for me, when I just started, like 22 years ago now, I understood that it was good, but I couldn't really digest it, and he used words like vasanas and jhana, and I didn't understand half of what he was talking about. I understood that it was profound, but it was very difficult to digest. And this is something that the mind really wants to take hold of, is the idea that this is going to take time. It loves that. Because then that is a way for the egoic mind to keep it also at bay. Because we're not really ready. We have to fix this and this, or I have to be in a better place, or a better space, or feel more harmonious, or whatever it is, whatever bullshit the egoic mind is going for. So, don't listen to that, because that is not, because the egoic mind doesn't know. It doesn't know what is going to happen. It loves to say that it knows what's going to happen. That's the whole game of worrying. That is the egoic mind saying, I know what is going to happen. Listen to me. And if you want to know how bad it is, you can just do statistics on. Write down all your worries, say what the egoic mind is saying about it, and then look at the actual outcome. It's not good at it. And it's the egoic mind is very bad at understanding what you are. That is also a key area where the egoic mind wants to have control, and all the time telling you if this is a good day, or if this is a bad day, if your decision was a good decision, or if it was a bad decision, or you shouldn't have done that, and blah, 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 blah. All this. But the egoic mind is not good at understanding that. But we get confused because we listen to the story that the egoic mind makes. So we make that we tell that story to others. This is where I'm at now, this is where I'm heading, this is my plan for 2023, whatever it is. And we believe in this story. So in a certain way we have to live that story because we believe it. But in meditation you start to watch what is actually happening. What is the events that is coming, really? Not the idea of what it is. Because the idea of what it is always in this comparing, weighing one thing against the other, all these things. But instead, watch what is going on. What is the reality of things, not what is my idea of who I am. And you will notice that the experience is much, much simpler than the mind makes it out to be. Because in the mind, in the egoic mind, there is like parallel universes where you have achieved something else, or you're better, or that can be compared with, or I should have lived my life this way or that way, or it's too late now, or all these things. It's just the bullshit of these stories. Look at what is happening, because what is happening in this moment, then if you understand that what is happening is the only thing that is happening. The other things are ideas of what is happening. So then it's so easy to be grateful for this moment, because that is all the emphasis there is. And also to understand that this little idea of me has so little to do with the present moment. It will just happen. Ramana said to someone who asked about faith and their ideas of a future, and he said, whatever is going to happen is going to happen, and whatever is not going to happen is not going to happen. And these things, they sound like, it's so obvious, it's so clear, but we get confused so easily.
How do you anticipate on things then?
You can always plan when it comes to the future, but as soon as you identify with that plan and think that this plan is going to make me happy, this plan is going to make everything perfect, or as soon as those aspects of the egoic mind goes into the plan, then you again start to tear the fabric of reality and make two of something that is just one. Because even though you make a plan, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And you can have a good intention and you can do your best for it to happen, but there is no guarantees. And also, what do you know about if it's good that it's happening or not? We can have this idea that if my plans happen, then it's always good. But sometimes when your dreams get crushed, you learn the most. So when you can start to accept whatever happens, then you get grateful even for when the universe grinds you a little bit, because you know that there's a possibility to see new things, or this will open something, or because the now has like the infinite possibilities, but the ideas of the mind are very limited. And we think that this mind world is so big and that the now is so little, when it's the opposite. In the now, if you just allow the now to be, anything can happen in the now. If you don't have all these ideas of how it should happen, it is so spacious. Anything can come into that field. Anything can happen. And things that you could never imagine. But as soon as you have your ideas, you narrow the window, because you sort everything out that, this doesn't fit my idea. And you take those things away. This person is not working in my plan or my idea, or the situation doesn't, and you just, and your field of view is very, very narrow. But if you just allow them to be, anything can pop up, and it can surprise you so much. it also simplifies things. Because like a problem that is happening in the now is just happening in the now. But a problem that is happening to the egoic mind can be a problem that you never have to deal with, but you can think about it for 3 weeks. So that takes so much energy and so much space. But what is happening in the now is very simple to deal with because it's happening now and it's very obvious what you can do about it and what you cannot. So it just simplifies. And people get the idea that meditation practice is like some great philosophy or some very intricate thing that you have to deal with. And in one aspect you could say that it is, because there are things that are good to practice and they can be. I started to write down meditations that I thought were good practices, and I wrote down 35 different things. So then I thought, okay, these are just on my fingertips, but for most people they don't think about 35 meditation. So then it could seem quite intricate. But when you start to understand what everything is pushing towards and why you practice certain things, then it becomes very simple. Because it's always about how to make your mind less cluttered, less things. If you do a practice and it creates more thoughts, then the egoic mind is there in some way, and if you do a practice, even though it can seem irrational, this practice, but it makes your mind silent, then you should continue doing that. And this could be the difficult part for me. My practice was that I came from an academic family where no one believed in God. There was no trust in some higher power. So I had such a difficult time as soon as I came into Buddhist or Vedanta groups, and they started to talk about these things, to like bow down to the universe, and this. I found it very, very difficult. But then I realized that those were some of the biggest things in all this practice. To understand that the egoic mind is not holding the universe up. It is an illusion. It's not even needed to be there. If you're just silence, your life will still happen. Everything will unfold as it does. There's nothing automatically passive with the stillness. Everything happens from it. It's just that you're not doubting whether you did it in the right way or wrong way. It just happens. So there need to be some trust, or you will meet that at some point. Otherwise you will notice that you will still worry because you think that you're somehow in charge. The egoic mind gives this feeling like, this child toy that you can put in a car, where the child has a steering wheel, but it's not connected to anything. That's the sense that the egoic mind gives. That you're in charge, you're doing everything, you feel like you have the steering wheel, but it's a train. It's still gonna go.
You said before that you can create more thought, and that's not what you want. You want to have less clutter, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I guess for most people, there also comes a time when you have a lot of old emotional stuff coming up.
Yes.
And it can almost feel like you're digressing.
Yes.
You have a sense that it's worse than when you started, right?
Yes.
Because it feels like you have so much heavy stuff coming up, right?
Yes. And in Vedanta they have a word for this, they call it vasanas, like old tendencies that come up to the surface. And if you practice and you stay as the stillness and you're consistent in your practice, then this is going to happen. And in the beginning, when I started to feel that, I got scared of these long periods where I felt very harmonious because I knew that the shit was going to come up. It's like you could feel it under the surface, almost bubbling. You feel very good, but you know, and you just keep your practice. For 2 months, it still hasn't come. And then it comes, and then it's really difficult to keep your practice, and you feel like often it gives the expression of like outward chaos, like your relationships gets chaotic, or it can have these kind of tendencies, but it's just this old fears of rejection or whatever it is that you carry that comes up. But the outcome of that is always that there will be more peace, there will be more stillness. But these storms will come up, and it's also easy for the egoic mind to get hold of that and want to, oh yes, but now I have to have this chance to intellectually understand my trauma and blah blah blah, and you want to talk to everyone about it. But I would say just allow all the dust to be aired out. And when it settles, see what is left and see if it comes again and in what form. And okay. And this will happen. And if you practice seriously, that is unavoidable. Because then the subconscious mind is like, okay, now there is space in the conscious mind to let all these things up. And like all feelings and all things that are suppressed, they just want to be felt. And if you sit with your emotions, you will notice every time that if you can't handle them and you suppress them, they will come back stronger. So the only way is to accept all the ugly, all the disgusting thoughts, all the shame or whatever it is, and just sit with it, let it be expressed. And it will maybe come and come again, but if the egoic mind doesn't touch it, it's gonna subside. And some of the things are deep, so they will have to come up many times. But you will also feel the difference. You will feel in the beginning it feels like magnets almost, like really sticky, and after a while you feel like, okay, you can come. And it's so common that people stop their practice in these moments. And if you do, don't be too harsh on yourself. Just whenever it comes back, just allow yourself to continue. It will happen as it happens. most important is to listen. Because if you get in tune with just listening to, then the intuitive sense would be very helpful to you. If the mind is very strong with its thoughts and you believe in them much, you will feel you won't have a compass in your practice. You will all the time feel a bit confused about it and uncertain. So to come back to listening and to notice this deep intuitive field is very, very helpful, because it will just also show you what is lacking. It's very good at that. And you will notice it, because some people say, yeah, I started to go more with my gut feeling now, and I'm not so much in my head, and they just go on their emotions instead. So they just go with the egoic mind and another. So I just want to be clear with that, because that seems to be a point of confusion for many people. And the intuitive sense is usually in a way that the egoic mind do not like. There will be a sense of, this is the way, and the egoic mind will say, no. I don't like that. It seems too challenging, or that doesn't fit, or all these kind of are good tells that the intuitive sense is. And especially it will be very clear that they have completely different agendas. I noticed after a few retreats that I went on, my intuitive sense was strong in me and felt like, I want to go on a retreat. And my egoic mind was like, no, it's terrible. It just hurts and it's boring and no, don't do that. And it was like really pleading with that. But the intuitive sense is much more like just a big yes. And when you listen to it, it also can help you with what parts are lacking in your practice, because there will always be like you will feel like, for example, that you're forcing your practice too much, you're pushing too much, and then the intuitive sense can be like, you have to surrender, and it comes with this. You have this deep sense of it, but you're still pushing. So there is these two, and maybe you don't know, but I don't know how to surrender. What is surrender? I don't understand. I only understand practicing hard. And won't that bring me surrender, or whatever wherever you are? And then, if you listen to it, it will also show you. It will give you. Maybe a person comes, says something, and it just opens some kind of practice, or someone says, yes, but to take part in this ceremony with me. Oh, ceremony, I don't know, it seems religious. Okay, but okay. And you notice that there is something, there is something here. I'm giving something, and it feels like I'm receiving something, but it felt really good. But even though the egoic mind says, I don't like this. And I think this is the same sense in people that draws you towards meditation, because it's not the egoic mind is not the main thing that draws you, because it is not the perfect place for it. It likes it a little bit. The egoic mind can like the meditation if you practice a little bit and you feel a little better, and the egoic mind feels like it's on track with what's going on and it has control. But as soon as you go into like this big silence, the stillness, and you just want to rest there, then the egoic mind is like, it wants to give you all kinds of ideas ideas of different things that you could do instead of this, because it has no space there. It cannot build its castle on this nothingness. And it's also that the freedom of beingness is in a way in uncertainty. And that is in this field of not knowing. Because the field of knowing is just the egoic mind saying, I know what's going to happen. That's worries and all these things. So the field of uncertainty is what actually is. And the egoic mind doesn't like it, so it doesn't like to be in that field. It doesn't like to stay there. But it has so much more to do with what life is. And uncertainty in our cultures sounds like something negative. But it's a beautiful uncertainty. Beautiful not knowing. Staying in the unknown. Just allowing the unknown to be. And the egoic mind talks about meditation like there is an end goal that is knowing. You come to this point and then you know. But what if the end goal is just to be comfortable with not knowing? There is always this question of difficultness. But what is difficult about the now? What is difficult about the now? Is it accessibility? Is it the question of timing? All these things are on 100%. But the mind can give the sense that this is not the right moment, or this is this, or this is needed, or something is lacking. But how can the now be lacking? How can you not practice being with the now? It's always there. Like if you want to build your muscles, it's good to be at the gym. But if you want to stay as the now, it's always accessible. You don't have to be in a certain spot. In the beginning, it's easier if it's a little bit quiet around you. But even though it's busy and stressful at work, the now is still there. Can always check in with it. Always notice. Notice that thoughts, even though they are stressful thoughts, are watchable. It's just a quiet question of dare to notice the now in all kinds of situations that are not meditative. And just explore it. Do things, and at the same time, watch yourself doing them. In the beginning, do simple things. Chopping salad, doing the dishes. And then look, see if you can stay aware and more complex, doing your work or playing a video game, whatever it is. And just watch. And the egoic mind says, but it's not possible to watch all the time. It takes so much effort. And there's also that it comes back to again, okay, how much effort does it take to be in the now? This is just the mind playing because it wants to have, the egoic mind wants to have this space. It wants to be relevant. It still wants to be some kind of entity. But it always needs to lend its power from you. From the stillness that you are. It has to say, it has to present an idea. You want to sow this seed? Here's the seed. You want to sow it? Because if you don't take that seed and plant it, nothing is going to happen. But since we're just so used to this relationship with the egoic mind, we automatically take seeds and sow them because we've always done that. So the effort is in being aware of the mind and just not be a gardener. This can present whatever it wants, but you just watch. And you might say at some point, but it's so difficult, I get drawn into it, and but it can never win the long game if you don't participate. That is the beautiful thing with the relationship with the egoic mind. It has a very limited source of energy, and you are it. It has to come to you and get the energy, otherwise it cannot continue. That's why if the egoic mind is too challenged, it can just drop. If you're in situations that feel that it just needs your entire focus on the now. There's a crisis, there's a fire in a building, and you have to run in and save a person. The egoic mind won't be the first. It won't take a lot of space then. Because suddenly the now is very, very important. So this happens to people, and they ask people, but how could you react so quickly, and how could you do this heroic thing? And people were just like, it was just what's needed to be done, because the egoic mind is not there. And we're just so used to giving it space, but that's why we have meditation practice. That's why we look, why we watch, why we stay at the stillness. How we notice the movement of everything. How we notice that what comes and goes is not real. doesn't take much. It takes that you're consistent, that you come back to it. You don't have to invest enormous amounts of time into your practice, but just come back to it every day. Do a little practice in the morning, little practice in the evening. If you find it challenging, do 5 minutes. The most important is to just remember, because otherwise the mind will just grow very, very thick. If it's, the garden will be very thick, and you forget. So easy to, I think, at least for me, I underestimated how easily you forget being with the now, because you think that you can remember it, but it is an experience. So that's why as soon as it's in the mind and it's the idea of your practice, it can distort it so much. So you have to practically come back to it time and time again. That is very important with it. Remember the silence. Remember the now. That it just comes and you stay with it. You see it again, and then it's with you. And then it's easy to come back to it. But if the practice, and especially in the beginning, is very easy, that it becomes very mental and very intellectual, and you think that if I think about meditation, that's also some kind of practice. But you have to come back. So that's why that becomes so important, and to not get stuck in these philosophical ideas of what your practice is or what it should be. Instead, just be. And all the moments, if you already have that in your life, maybe you're working out, or maybe you're doing some activity that makes you very present, just use that help, like climbing or working out or whatever you're doing, yoga, whatever it is. If you can stay with your, stay with my body, watch my thoughts, coming back to the stillness. And if you get stuck, please come and ask questions. It's also very good. And if you feel that the egoic mind takes you on a ride, it's also very good in a group setting like this to just expose your ego, what it does, because then it's much more difficult for it to continue. It's the ego loves working in the dark. It doesn't like when you expose it, and it doesn't like it doesn't like awareness on it. I thought that we could do a meditation, Omkara meditation. Do you like that? It's a simple mantra meditation, which is very, for like 10 minutes, we will just chant Oms together. It just occupies the mind and keeps it focused, and you just try to watch the Oms. Watch yourself singing the Oms. And then we have like 10 minutes, we just sit in silence, and then again 10 minutes of Omkara. So you just follow me. find a comfortable position. And in these, when it's 10 minutes of silence, I won't guide anything, we will just be silent, but you just come back to watching like we did in the first meditation. You just notice your thoughts, notice sensations of the body. And usually the mind gets a bit quiet from the mantra. So it's just can be a nice way of just be easier noticing the stillness. Oh. Oh. time you do any form of practice like this, I enjoy very much to give thanks. Just to stay in a field of gratitude towards everyone who has made this practice possible. Think of my teacher. And the gratitude to just be in the field of satsang and to have this reincarnation, that it's possible to talk about what we are, to explore reality in this way. Such a beautiful thing, such grace. The egoic mind always resists gratitude. A little bit. It's too wholehearted for the ego. It's too much. The egoic mind likes its buts and it's questioning all the time. It doesn't enjoy the wholeheartedness. And gratitude is so profound because it's one of those moments when you say that everything is as it is. Thank you for it being as it is. And you get relieved for a little while from being the little person, the little doer. And you can just say, thank you, universe, for everything that you give me. It's so simple and it's so profound. And these are all the small pieces that create your sadhana, your practice. And that calms the mind. And makes it easy to rest in the space, in the field that is now. This is the quality. This is quality of life. To be with what is. Otherwise you're running somewhere else. Just playing with thoughts. Playing the egoic mind's game. This is it. This is all there is. So to be with it without an internal struggle, it's a blessing. Beautiful. And even though you see other people struggle, you know that they're also just the stillness. There's some confusion about it perhaps, but it is there. We have a few minutes left, so if anyone has any questions or want me to clarify anything, teacher told me at one point, not my teacher who's there in the middle, Swami Shashwat, he told me not to stop practicing. He never gave me much instructions, very short things, he usually said. But he told me, don't stop. I was leaving India, I was leaving the ashram, and he just said, don't stop practicing. And at first I thought that he meant that I should sit every day like I did in the ashram. But the more I was with it, I understood that there is no difference between the practice and me. So this very simple sentence became very, very profound. Because what is the practice that we're doing? We're staying as ourselves. That's all it is. Stay as yourself. Stay as the stillness behind the thoughts, the thing that you are. You come back to it time and time again. And if you don't stop practicing, you're just that. So the end of the practice is not really like that. It's that you understand that you are the practice. In the beginning it feels like a foreign thing that you implement in your life. And then you start to realize that this practice that I'm doing is just to become myself. That there is not really a practice. In the beginning it feels like you're coming back time and time again to yourself. And like you recognize yourself for a while and then you get lost. But at some point, the portion of this recognition is bigger than the losing part. So then there is a deep recognition of this. That you are the practice. It's difficult for the mind. This is difficult for the mind. But in actuality, very simple. Because the ego likes to think in terms of time. So it always has like I'm doing this for this goal or this achievement. It likes those kind of things. Like that something just dissolves into something else is not really that's not nice to the ego. And especially when it doesn't have a place there. And it can go in certain areas and it feels like it's okay, but there's always a point where it cannot go. And if you identify with the ego, there will be a lot of frustration. There will just be a lot of battle with it. And if you let go, it will be fine, but it will feel just scary because you're so used to this finding a way forward with the help of the egoic mind. But at some point it has to